Do you want me to move over this way?
No, you're good. It's very sensitive, so it's actually grand to be further away.
Fine. Okay, great.
Okay, good. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Celtic Tales Chronicles. We're here in 2024.
Woo!
I'm Kerry, hanging out with Rab.
Hi everybody, it's good to be back. If I remember rightly, our last episode of 2023, Kerry, it had a poltergeist and weird and wild things in it. And I'm just going to say, we should take a moment because we are recording this in a weird and wild place.
Indeed.
Yes, go for it. Tell folk what we're doing.
So we're out on the bow of a ship, basically.
Yeah.
Is what we're gonna go with.
Yeah.
So in this episode, we're going to be taking a pretty, deep dive into female pirates, and trust us, those ladies get pretty weird and wild.
They do. They get very weird and wild, and we are actually outside being weird and wild, and there may be like pirates passing, so you might hear noises, birds, screams, all that kind of thing, but that's not that. I think we should into it. Where do we want to start, Kenny?
We're going to start with Miss Big herself. Granuaile hits the scene in the 1530s. So, are you ready?
I've got my pistol packed, I've got a pair of water wings, I have a big wig on.
Perfect.
Let's
ready to go.
Okay.
Okay. So she's born into the, and you're going to help me with this pronunciation, right?
No, I'm not.
Umayyad clan? O'Malley?
I guess that would work. I'm just going to say, do you know what, before I say anything, can I make an intervention? I know we've not quite started yet, but can I make an intervention?
Absolutely.
Alright. This is pirate related, so audience, wait there. Okay. I'm just remembering here, when I was wee, one of my favourite cartoons was Captain Pugwash. And it was a cartoon and a comic, and I loved it. And basically Captain Pugwash, you'd hear about hidden gold, and he'd try and go and find it, and then there'd be comic mistakes would be made, and then things would happen, then that was the end of his adventure. But the main thing was that his sidekick, the brains behind the pirate crew, he was called Master Bates.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Interesting. So, and in every episode, there would come a point where the captain would cry out, "Arr! Get Master Bates!"
Oh my god.
And then all the crew and all the children watching, including myself, little Rab, would be crying out, "Master Bates! Master Bates!" So, anyway, I'm just going to put that out there. That's my intervention for it. Okay.
To be honest, it's not completely inappropriate in today's episode, even if it is inappropriate for Wayne's in the 70s, because there's going to be a lot of sex going along the Wild Atlantic Way today. Yeah. In the episode. Yeah. Possibly also in real life, but that's none of our business.
Do you know what? If you are in the Wild Atlantic Way just now and you're having sex,
why are you listening to our
Why
podcast?
are you listening to our podcast? Or maybe it adds to it.
That's
I don't know.
True.
I don't want to think about it. But
don't really. Yeah. Anyway.
I'm just going to say, there may be sex going on just now in the 21st century, but we do know that in the 16th century Ireland, the history of that time can be summed up in two words, and those words are fighting and fornicating. Fornicating, yeah.
Yes, everyone is fighting, fornicating, or fornicating and then fighting, or in the case of Granuaile, fighting, fornicating, giving birth, then fighting some more, and I mean fighting directly after giving birth.
Yeah, how anybody in Galway Mhaol ever found time to farm or trade or run a pirate ship, I do not know. Everybody was being intimate with everybody else all the time.
Although they did find time to go to mass, the fine Catholics that they were.
Very good. I'm going to Domini pizza. Moving on quickly. Okay, we need to focus now. Before we dive in, let's mention some of our sources and the support that we get as well.
So firstly, we want to say a huge thank you to Caroline, head librarian of the Galway City Library and my local authority on Granuaile. She has been instrumental in the research process for this series, and we just can't thank her enough for all of her advice and guidance.
Yeah, and if you actually want to hear Caroline herself, she served as moderator for the 2023 Cultural Night event that took place in the City Library, and the panel, which included Kerry,
Yes.
is available to stream now as an episode of the podcast. So Caroline stepped in at the last minute to moderate, and she did a hashtag awesome job.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Other references include Anne Chambers' book Granuaile, Ireland's Pirate Queen, and an article 16th Century Ireland 1485 to 1603 by Dudley Edwards. And I apologise if you can hear us flipping the pages of our scripts.
That's alright.
And David B. Quinn from Irish Historical Studies, Volume 16. Galway City Library has plenty of literature on Gráinne, so if you're interested, absolutely go there.
Go to the library, yeah.
Ask the experts.
Yeah, go there. And you know what, there might be other things come up, so we'll put them all in the episode notes anyway. So, I think we've covered our notes, references, masturbation, and lots of other things. I think it might be now time to start the story.
I think so.
Okay.
So, Gráinne was born into a robust and seafaring clan, and the clan motto was powerful by land and sea. With 400 years of hindsight on my side, it's clear that Gráinne was destined for the waves because it was basically her birthright.
Yeah. However, not many women were given pages and pages of historical records the way men were. Documentary evidence for her life comes mostly from English sources, especially the 18 articles of interrogatory questions put to her in writing on behalf of Elizabeth I, Queen of England. Gráinne predated the careers of more widely known female pirates, Anne Bonny and her companion Mary Read by 150 years. And we're going to do them as well, aren't we?
We are. We're going to
Okay,
explore
so
those
stay
two.
tuned. Yeah.
Yes, part 2. Okay, so then there's the origins of Gráinne's name. The version that I learned in primary school, local oral tradition, is that Mhaol, as a young girl, wished to go on a trading expedition to Spain with her father. Upon being told she could not because her long hair would catch in the ropes of the ship, which is a great reason, I don't want to get scalped, she cut off most of her hair to shame her father into taking her. And for me, this really stuck with me because this makes her incredibly brave. I've always had long hair except for a brief flirtation with choppy layers in my teens. Spent the last 10 years growing that out, and I couldn't imagine shaving my head to prove a point. So go Gráinne.
Go Gráinne.
Yeah.
See, when I was a teenager, I briefly had a, what do you call them,
A mohawk.
a mohawk. I was
Wow.
going to say moccasin, didn't I?
Moccasin. Wow.
Yeah.
Are there any photos? I'd love to see. They've all been burned.
I dry everything. So anyway, she chopped off her hair, and some folks say that's kind of get the nickname Granuaile from Mhaol, meaning bald or having cropped hair.
So the nickname may also come from Gráinne Mhaol, Gráinne of Mhaol being a historical district of West Connacht dominated by the Mhaol family.
So, yeah, the facts about her life are vague at times, but there does seem to be some certainty over her birth and death. According to various accounts, she was born in the early 1530s, and it's pretty certain she died in 1603.
And this actually makes her an exact contemporary of another pretty well-known woman, Queen Elizabeth Tudor, who was born in 1533 and died in 1603. They were both nobles, both women, and both locked in this titanic struggle for the future of Ireland.
Yeah, somebody needs to write a parallel lives book about these two. I keep seeing these parallel lives about famous men. I know there's one about Stalin and Hitler and all this.
Yeah.
And do you
I'm
know
over
what?
it, like.
Get over it.
Yeah.
These two, their lives, between the two of them, we just learn so much about not just Ireland and the UK, but the world in the second half of the 16th century. So somebody has to do that part of their lives.
Elizabeth Tudor, the Virgin Queen, is renowned across the world, and neither has Gráinne been forgotten. There's 2 notable statues of Gráinne, one at Westport House, and one just outside Old St. Pat's Church, which sounds like it could be in Ireland, but it's actually in Chicago. She's beloved the world over, and rightly so.
Yeah, as well as Grace O'Malley Park in Howth, which commemorates her supposed attempted visit in 1576. She attempted to visit. Do you know what? That's fine. We're outside. We have there's ice around us just now. We're shaking, and we're drinking tea. So bear with us. Okay. She apparently, according to legend, Granuaile, temporarily abducted a family member after being denied entry. Okay, so that's why I've got a park named after her there. And then since 1948, the Commissioners of Irish Lights have sailed 3 vessels named Granuaile and across the Atlantic in the USA, Florida to be exact. Grace O'Malley is the inspiration for the loyal crew of Grace O'Malley, one of the many crews that participate in the Gasparilla Pirate Festival. So yeah, boo socks to Elizabeth Tudor and all her little Tudors, who's not celebrated in any pirate festivals.
one.
So, yeah, boo socks. Kerry, I'm going to throw this at you. How do you do in boats?
Well, Rab, I actually do love the sea. I grew up walking distance from a beach and once upon a time drove a speedboat off the coast of Donegal at the tender age of 12.
Oh, okay, speedboats in puberty, that works so well.
Yeah,
Okay.
before you panic, it was all above board and my parents were present on said speedboat. It reminded me of driving a horse and cart, which I've also done.
What?
Once upon a time, Donegal's a wild place.
Yeah, it's a wild place.
So, yeah, it made me feel like you need to be respectful of the force driving you, but not scared of it. And even though I've only driven one boat this far, I feel like I could do it again at a moment's notice. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah. Do it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, my engagement with the sea, it's kind of a typical Glaswegian one. So when I was wee, we had a thing called the Fair Fortnight, and that's when workers traditionally had their holiday, and the entire city would decamp and go down the water, and that is they would travel down the Clyde estuary to one of the islands in the Lower Hebrides. So it's an incredible landscape filled with hills and vast expanses of water.
And from what I remember, this is the landscape of the ancient Gaelic kingdom of Dalriada as well.
Yeah, so I spent my childhood travelling through a landscape of myth and history. Unfortunately, Kerry, there was also the time when Jaws the movie came out.
Do. Oh, maybe we can't use that. You
Yeah.
all know it.
Okay, I'm going to tell you, as a wee boy, it scared the shite out of me. And I actually do remember sitting on a beach. And I'm actually going to just describe this beach for a minute, because the beach would be packed, and then there was a sewer outlet pouring shite out onto the beach. But it was great because, like, mussels and whelks, they eat the shite, so it was a lot of mussels and whelks, so then people would get the mussels and whelks and eat them.
Oh, wow.
I'm not sure how healthy it was. Anyway, that's the beach. I was sitting there, not concerned about the sewage, but I was concerned about, I'd be looking at the crowds, I'd be looking at the water, and I'd be thinking, oh, there's a big, big shark out there. I was absolutely terrified.
I mean, you would be like.
Yeah.
I think Gráinne probably would have laughed at the idea of a giant shark. I think her family would have been so blasé about a big rubber monster jumping out of the water. After all, this is the west of Ireland, and there's a lot of real weird creatures and places along the coast.
Yeah, there is.
Not to diminish your fear, which is a very real fear, and I would have had that too had I seen Jaws as a child.
Yeah, thank you for letting me own my fear there. Yeah, west of Ireland, it's full of weird and wild creatures, and I'm just going to try and think of some. Balor, he's the one-eyed king of the Fomorians, and he lives on an island somewhere along the west, and this island is attached to Mhaol by great chains apparently. So for a laugh, sometimes he tugs the chains, and that's how you get earth tremors and stuff in the kind of west of Ireland. There you go.
That is terrifying.
Yeah.
And then there's is it High Brazil or High Brazil?
I think it's High Brazil.
High Brazil, sounds about right. There's High Brazil, a magical island that wanders up and down the west and south of Ireland, sometimes drifting off into the Atlantic, and it's a magical place that lures sailors from their path with the promise of gold.
Yeah. And interestingly, High Brazil, it remained on British naval maps right up to the end of the 19th century.
Has there been a cover-up?
Do you know what? We're going to have to do a podcast episode on
I think
High Brazil.
so.
I think there's definitely something we're going to have to do.
Honestly, guys, something that happens when we're doing research is we come up with about 20 more ideas for episodes because the stuff we're looking into is so interesting. And we're like, we should focus on this, we should focus on this.
Yeah, and then we have to stay focused on the subject. Yes.
Yeah, that's it. And then of course, coming back to it, there's the weather.
Oh, yeah.
The Atlantic has, as you know, we're outside right now, so an incredibly dynamic weather system, and anybody who lives in Galway knows that the weather can switch quite wildly over the course of one day.
We're hoping that it's going to switch from icy to warm
Yeah,
very soon.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing I like about the West of Ireland and the West of Scotland as well is the rain. The rain here is very beautiful. It's as beautiful as the sunshine, the way it kind of carries the colour of the light and stuff. But of course, it'd be even more dramatic and devastating encountering gusts of rain and storms and blasts out there on the Atlantic Ocean.
And it sounds dangerous, but also very exhilarating, which sounds like it's right up Gráinne Street, to be honest.
Yeah, I get the impression she would just be, very up for it, okay? So, unlike most coastal families in Ireland at the time, and they were kind of mostly like doing fishing stuff, the O'Malleys were explorers and pirates, and they did not confine themselves to the west of Ireland. According to some sources, they traded and plundered as far as Scotland and Spain, which means I could have had an ancestor shagged by an O'Malley. I might actually be
Rab O'Malley.
Rab O'Malley.
That's it. We're not going to do any tests, we're just going to believe it, and you know,
It's my truth.
it's your truth.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's what you need.
Fuck it, I am a pirate.
You
I've
are.
spent a lot of my life living in the company of
Interesting folk.
interesting folk, so I'm going to claim it. Okay.
Very good. Now, it is worth examining why piracy had such prevalence at this time.
I'm just going to say, I'm putting on my nerd glasses just now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. So, Anne Chambers states in her book Granuaile, Ireland's Pirate Queen, that a 1518 bylaw prohibited unlicensed visits to Galway City by Gaelic clans. This inability to visit Galway City, the trading capital of the West, ensured that the O'Malleys needed to sail and trade their goods via the sea. Fishing was one of the main sources of income for coastal clans in the West, and piracy had basically been their side hustle and supplemented their main income for hundreds of years already.
Yeah. And that still goes on to this day in parts of the world. It's like piracy is like it's a supplement to it. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, one of the things to take note of is that there was a lot of these changes in Ireland, like suddenly the Gaelic clans being banned from Galway. These were part of a new drive by the Tudors to weaken autonomous Gaelic power bases and eventually to introduce a centralised English feudal system. So stopping Gaelic nobles and families trading in English-controlled cities, it was a big deal and it was part of a big plan.
What a lot of people don't realise, and I actually didn't know until we started researching this, was how huge of a trading city Galway was in the late medieval period. For example, Galway imported more wine than London during this period, which is a lot.
A lot.
A lot of this was to do with trade winds and currents out in the Atlantic, and in turn this was part of an ancient sea route that connected Galway with the Iberian Peninsula in the south and then northward west to Scotland, Orkneys, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
And Scandinavia.
Yeah. And this sea route, this sea trade, it's also reflected in the myth and folklore of Ireland. The Milesians were said to have arrived in the west of Ireland having travelled from Spain. And many of the canonical,
What a word.
what a word, mythic tales involve Scotland. Cú Chulainn, for example, and we're going to have to do an episode on this as well.
Oh yeah.
It'd be a hashtag porn episode. Cú Chulainn, he learned his sword fighting skills, and people should know this, from the greatest sword fighters in the world, who were the women who ruled the Isle of Skye. As I say, that saucy tale.
For another time,
Yeah.
it's too early in the day
It's
to
really
talk
early.
about that.
Yeah.
And I will say, those women on the Isle of Skye remind me of, you know, the Amazons in the ancient Greek and Roman tales. So could be interesting to look into that, perhaps some other time. More parallels with women.
Readers, give us what you want us to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
So although the exact number of ships belonging to the O'Malley clan is unknowable, Gráinne is recorded as commanding from as few as 3 and to as many as 20 ships over the course of her career. And 20 ships back then, that's a lot.
It's a big investment. So she was the only child of her parents, and records suggest her brother Donald was either a half sibling or illegitimate. So she was the one parent of two of them, but she had a half brother as well. Technically, this didn't matter. His sons born outside or inside wedlock were all eligible for the same inheritance rights and election to the position of chieftain.
That's so interesting because almost everywhere else in Europe at this time, legitimacy was so important as someone's heir. The fact that male children born outside marriage were legally allowed to ascend to chieftain if elected, but women, aka their daughters, were not, is ridiculous. But at the same time, laws around marriage were much more favourable to women in Ireland than anywhere else. You could keep your maiden name, your dowry was refundable for your first marriage in the case of divorce or death, and you could own your own property, which was huge.
Yeah, I mean, a big contrast to the lives of English women at the time. There's a big contrast there, and because their husbands owned everything. Interestingly, in Ireland, trial marriages were commonplace, and divorce was allowed at this time. And okay, just to clarify that, Ireland only reintroduced divorce legally in 1996, after the Constitution outlawed it in 1937. And listeners, if you want to hear more about the divorce and all that, listen to the Poltergeist episode, because we talk about it there as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, divorce was only illegal here for like less than 100 years, which is mad.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, so the fact that women in Ireland had more freedom than their counterparts in Europe at the time could be attributed to the fact that the Roman Empire never made it here.
Yay!
Woo! Not getting oppressed. And Gaelic society continued largely unaffected while Europe went through the Reformation, the Renaissance and more. And even when you look at Irish art and architecture and stuff from this time, it's so unique compared to the other stuff in Europe because they had their, you know, artistic movements. We were just chilling.
Yeah. Chilling. Accessing mushrooms.
Who's to say?
Fighting and fornicating. That was it. However, let's not get too romanticised because, as we said, Ireland at this time was going through some pretty dramatic changes, and it's worthwhile having a look at some of those changes that happened during the life of Granuaile.
Okay, so it's time to put on our nerd hats,
Again,
not just our glasses.
Old hats as well.
Yep. And take a quick dive into medieval Ireland.
Yay!
Woo! We love medieval Ireland. So it's a little bit confusing, but we'll hold your hand through it, reader. Listener, not reader.
Yeah, except for the ones that are having sex just now and the ones
I don't want to be involved.
We don't want to be involved.
Good for you though.
Keep going. Keep going. Well done. Massive. Okay. And just to point out, there are plenty of Irish historians who are still arguing the fine points of this, so if we get anything wrong, please forgive us.
And if you are a historian listening to this, let us know the facts at theceltictaleschronicles@gmail.com.
Yeah, if anybody can email us there, go for it. Okay, here's weird fact number 1. There were 2 islands during the medieval period. There was Gaelic Ireland, which was ruled by the great Gaelic families. These are their own customs, laws, patronage of the arts, language.
And then there was English Ireland, which began with the Normans in 1200 and something. Anyway. Oh wow! Did you hear those birds? Oh my god! I hope it picked that up. Wow!
Yeah.
There's lots of birds. I'm feeling very Alfred Hitchcock right now.
Yeah.
Oh god. Anyway, the Normans were loyal to England and they set up institutions that mimicked English institutions. So they were basically just trying to, remake Ireland in England's image. There was a parliament which passed laws and regulations and taxes for the English in Ireland, which ran from 1297 to 1800.
Yeah, it's a long time. And the weird thing is these 2 islands did interact. Some Irish became like the English. Some English became more Irish. And there's a lot, we're going to go into all those stories, but basically there was also a fear from the kind of high Hegians that ran England. There was a fear of the English going native. And this fear was enshrined in the Statute of Kilkenny, which is from 1367, which made it illegal for English in Ireland to speak Irish. and also illegal for the Irish to speak their language when dealing with the English.
There was always a fear that the English would, quote unquote, go native. A similar fear existed in other parts of England's territories. In Wales, for example, in 1553, a new law banned the Welsh from the law courts, and monoglot Welsh speakers were barred from holding public office. So if you couldn't speak English,
Yeah.
even in your own country, you couldn't hold office, which is insane.
Yeah, so that's what's happening. But the weird thing is that in Ireland, the great Irish and English nobles, they would become allies or rivals in local, national, international disputes. So there was this dynamic exchange going on between them all the time. And then gradually the Parliament in Ireland, which looked after English folk and English things, became undermined by the factional disputes between the leading English families. And those English families, even called them English, they've been in Ireland by this point for hundreds of years. Meanwhile, the Irish lords, as the English were fighting amongst themselves, they were growing more powerful.
Under the Tudors, the English monarchs began to increase the territory controlled by English lords, in particular English lords that were important to the Tudor dynasty. This only increased tensions and conflicts and rebellions.
Alright, so now we're going to get... Granuaile's going to come into the story now. 1555. She's a little toddler, okay? So this is when she's a child. And the tensions between the English factions erupted into warfare. So Thomas Fitzgerald, he's the 10th Earl of Kildare, led a rebellion and captured Dublin. And historically the Fitzgeralds were the viceroys of Ireland, overseeing it on behalf of the English crown. But Thomas's father was in dispute with Henry VIII and had to go to England to answer charges. When it was rumoured that he'd been killed, Thomas led this rebellion.
And then Henry decided that it was time to settle Ireland once and for all. He also decided that Ireland would be one united kingdom under English law, governance, society and language. This of course led to rebellions by Old English and Gaelic lords. These rebellions would take place across Ireland over the lifetime of Granuaile, as England increased its violent imposition of a new order in which there would be no place for Gaelic lords, Gaelic institutions, customs or language.
Yeah, I mean basically Henry VIII thought, fuck it, this whole two islands and negotiating between them, they're done with that, it's going to be one island and that will be English Ireland. What a dick.
What a dick, yeah. So true.
Yeah. So in 1541, and I just need to clarify, this is just so, I'm going to have this story in Scotland as well. There's plenty of other examples around the world, not just in Europe, but in other parts of the world and different continents, of nations having what we call cantons, the canton thing, different languages, different cultures, and working it together. Not under England, it's fuck you, excuse my language. Anyway, so he declared, in 1541 declared Ireland was one united kingdom and set about trying to undermine and destroy Irish culture, dynasties, politics, language, land ownership, the whole thing.
So this needed more English soldiers and more English plantations taking control of loads of Irish land. Gaelic lords were forced to accept English feudal structures, English law and language were imposed, and Catholicism was banned. And we're still dealing with the effects of this. We should be speaking Irish. We're in the west of Ireland. It should be everyone's first language here, but no, most of the time it's English.
Yeah. And even so this is history, but it's also living history anyway. And it didn't just impact on Irish, it also impacted on Old English families too. You have to make that point. I mean, many of them wanted to remain Catholic. Many of them were used to this dynamic exchange, partnership, rivalry between the Irish and English families. But suddenly that was all done with, that was to be gone. There was Henry's way, and that was it. The Irish were no longer just difficult partners, they were a problem. They needed to be solved. They needed to have manners put on them. Sound familiar?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a 800-year-old
yeah.
tale as old as time.
Yeah.
So the Irish, of course, don't respond well to this dictate of the crown, and there was a lot of admiration for those who somehow managed to keep their autonomy and power in this changing world. And one of the finest examples of that resistance to English change was Granuaile, who came to represent Irish power, untrammelled and undefeated. So, history lesson over, back to Gráinne's story.
Yay! Go Gráinne!
Woo!
So, we're going to go now to 1546. She's 16 and she gets married to Donald O'Flaherty, the Taoiseach or heir to the O'Flaherty clan. And they're a powerful Gaelic family who controlled parts of Galway and Connemara. And so fierce was their reputation that the English city of Galway had an inscription on its huge walls: "From the ferocious O'Flahertys, O Lord, deliver us."
That's so badass.
Yeah.
So the O'Flaherty's base was in Bunowen, along from Roundstone. From this location they could control the Atlantic Passage into Galway City and Galway County. Donal and Gráinne were the perfect power match. She brought ships and fighting men to the marriage, as well as brains and fertility. Gráinne gave birth to 3 children by Donal, 2 sons, Owen and Mhaol, and a daughter, Mhaol. And even if she couldn't be the chieftain in name, she was the undisputed leader of the O'Malley clan following her father's death.
Yeah, but Donal O'Flaherty, he was a bit hot-tempered and he definitely lacked leadership skills. And Gráinne quickly assumed leadership of the O'Flahertys too. Girl boss
Sellers.
Definitely, yeah.
So in 1565, after falling into an English engineered dispute, Donal was ambushed and killed by his Galway rivals. So Gráinne, now 35 years of age, sought revenge and a re-establishment of her authority by raiding Cox Castle in Loch Lomond.
With Donal's wealth and land returning to the O'Flaherty clan, Gráinne returned to her family's base on Clare Island. From there she quickly asserted her sovereignty over the west of Ireland with raids from Donegal to Waterford. This was a dangerous coastline with fierce storms and fierce enemies. Gráinne survived it all and gained her reputation as a pirate queen. She would brook no enemies and always sought revenge.
It was definitely an exciting life, but not a romantic one. History tells us that sailing was traditionally a male career choice, and even nowadays that does tend to be true. Not that women can't sail, but that they are often excluded from it. As Anne Chambers says, in the 16th century, conditions aboard were primitive, privacy non-existent. To give birth on a bucking galley on the high seas, as Granuaile did, seems unimaginable. End quote. It's the lack of running water for me. When I was 13 or so, our pipes froze during the winter, and we had to melt snow for water, and it was awful. And the idea of not being able to wash after literally giving birth, hell.
Okay, so I'm just going to clarify, you're not going to give up podcasting for piracy?
If the ship comes with an ensuite, I could be tempted, but probably not.
Alright, okay. And just to clarify, Granuaile did give birth on a ship, and we're going to get back to that later. Okay.
So not long after the death of O'Flaherty, she took a lover, the woman has needs, Hugh de Lacy, who she rescued from a shipwreck.
Cool.
When he was murdered in a raid by the McMahon clan of Doona Castle, Gráinne hunted down every one of the murderers, slew them all, and then attacked and took the castle. Talk about girlfriend of the century.
Do you know what? I'm telling you. Whoa.
What a woman.
What a woman. So then, just because she doesn't rest this one, in 1566 she had a trial marriage. We spoke to them earlier. Trial marriage with Richard the Iron Buck, who had a strategically placed castle. 1 year after the marriage, Gráinne and her warriors took over the castle, locked Burke out, and then with a cry of, "I dismiss you," Gráinne ended the trial marriage. Strangely enough, Richard Burke did not become her enemy. He remained her loyal friend. Clearly he was a man who appreciated women with attitude and knew he wasn't the man for Gráinne.
I think stories like this make you realise just how charismatic a person Gráinne must have been.
Yeah.
Sure, she humped and dumped Richard Burke, then took his fucking castle. But he seems to have thought that it was the coolest thing that had ever happened to him. So, he was happy, she was happy, we're all friends.
And then, just keep going with the cool stuff, she did something which I'm pretty sure really blew Burke's mind. Let's just get this. So she was pregnant with their child, fair enough. But she was a pirate queen, and sometimes pirates get into fights with other pirates. And there were a lot of pirates raiding Ireland in the 16th century. In particular, there were pirates based in North Africa who would make raids to the south of Ireland to capture booty and slaves.
These pirate crews are usually referred to as Algerian, but in actual fact they were a pretty international crew consisting of Dutch, Algerian and Ottoman Turks, as well as people from pretty much every other place.
Yeah.
Anyway, in 1667, Gráinne found herself in conflict with one of these pirate fleets. However, as well as having to command her own fleet, she was also in labour. So as these pirates drew closer, she gave birth to her son. But as she cried out with labour pangs, the Algerians boarded her ship. Gráinne wrapped herself in blankets, grabbed her sword, and rushed up to the deck to beat the enemy back.
Fuck.
Can you imagine?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I've just given birth, fuckies. I want my toast and tea now.
That's it. I know people say that women have a higher pain tolerance because obviously there's, you get a period. Not every woman gets a period, but a lot of women do.
Yeah.
And you get used to pain from such a young age. But like that's next level.
That's just taking it up a whole level. And you know what? Richard Burke, I'm just imagining him. I mean, he must have thought, wow, I shagged that woman.
Yeah.
It would definitely be my Instagram feed. I shagged her. I'm the coolest guy ever.
Yeah.
I think he must have been our #1 fan.
Oh, for sure. He was simp #1.
Yeah.
The other thing about Gráinne that's cool is that she was not just a bloodthirsty warrior. Unlike so many male leaders at the time, it was not bloodshed for bloodshed's sake. She had rules and she valued loyalty.
Yeah. I mean, that Howth story you mentioned earlier, it's a good example of the rules she lived by. Howth is in the east of Ireland, and when Gráinne was sailing there, she called in at a local castle to get provisions for her ship. The Earl of Howth turned her away. This offended Gráinne, who believed in the Irish custom of always providing food and shelter to those who ask. So that night, she slipped into the castle and kidnapped the Earl. She promised to release him on condition that there would always be an extra place at his table for any strangers that came calling. Tell me.
Legend.
Yeah.
Now this story might be apocryphal, but it does reflect the way that Gaelic nobility wanted to be seen, which is how Gráinne wanted to be seen. But there is nothing apocryphal about the tales of her fierce loyalty. In particular, she remained absolutely committed to supporting her former husband and lover, Richard Burke. Besties for the restie.
Absolutely. She's cool. I've got a helicopter now. They must be looking for Gráinne.
That's it, yeah.
Gráinne supported his claim to become heir to the MacWilliam clan. However, English law was now being imposed on Mhaol under Elizabeth Tudor, and the English wanted their firstborn male to be the heir. Tensions mounted in Mhaol, but Gráinne, ever clever, decided to not fight the English. Instead, she offered them ships if they would let Burke retain his position. From being conquerors, the English in Mhaol had to accept being partners to the formidable pirate queen.
But things were getting harder for the autonomous Gaelic nobility and clans, and life was getting difficult for Gráinne. During a raid on Munster, she was captured by the local earl. He was trying to curry favour with the English queen, so he sent Gráinne to the English. Held in a dungeon in Dublin Castle, she somehow escaped. But the facts are a bit obscure. But she escaped.
She escaped, yeah.
Royally pissed off, she began raiding the English ships.
Yeah, she did. Oh, just don't mess with this woman.
That's it.
And there's a helicopter out now, searching for the spirit of her. My goodness, I'm getting cold. We're outside and...
We are so brave.
We are so
braver
brave.
than the troops.
When the head of the McWilliam clan died, the English now tried to stop Richard Burke inheriting his title. Gráinne went to war on behalf of her friend. She raised a massive army that included Scottish mercenaries as fierce and bloody as Gráinne. The English backed down and Richard became head of the clan. Gráinne, who was now his wife again, details are obscure, became Lady Burke. On again, off again relationships and new things. It's just a bit bigger.
They've been happening.
Yeah.
But sadly, in 1583, her friend, lover, and now husband died. As, you know, people always are.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
it's very sad.
Yeah.
And his property returned to his clan. Gráinne, with her loyal followers, returned to the sea. But the English still feared her, and they were determined to destroy her.
Yeah. In 1886, I'm trying to think, she's now 56 or something. In 1886, Richard Bingham, the governor of Connacht, led an attack that killed her son, Owen. And when she sought revenge, he finally captured her and sentenced her to death.
Once more, classic Gráinne, she escaped.
Woohoo!
Woo! And joined the Irish Rebellion.
Woo!
She was in an armed revolt against Bingham, but her fleet was gradually being destroyed and her power bases undermined. But ever confident and ever proud, Gráinne decided to circumvent Bingham and go straight to his boss, who just so happened to be Queen Elizabeth of England.
Yeah, a perfectly natural thing to do, for Gráinne was a queen as well, and the equal of any monarch. So in 1593, she wrote to the English Queen that the conflict in the West was caused by Bingham. In revenge, Bingham captured her other son and accused him of treason, a crime punishable by death.
Would he not cop on?
I get very annoyed now reading this.
Gráinne, using her own formidable network of contacts, now left Ireland and went straight to the Queen of England. They met in Greenwich, is that how you say it?
Could be.
Greenwich, who's to say? Elizabeth, according to all accounts, was awestruck by the old woman who turned up at her court demanding a hearing.
Yeah, according to some accounts, the Queen of England, she was all attired in fine clothes and jewellery, but Gráinne looked like what she was, a hard-bitten, wind-burned pirate with wild hair and battered boots.
And I would say that Gráinne was making a point there. She did not need to dress nobly, for she herself was nobility personified.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
One story has it that when Gráinne sneezed, she was offered a hanky. She looked at it, wiped her nose, and then threw it in the fire. Who would be so foul as to keep a dirty piece of linen?
Yeah, her attitude is just
so good.
Yeah. And I know, when I think about this meeting between these two queens, I imagine all the English flunkies trying to explain court etiquette to Gráinne, how to address Elizabeth, how to bow, how to act properly. And Gráinne must have thought them absolute fucking knobheads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gráinne did not do the etiquette thing.
No!
She spoke to Elizabeth as one queen to another. And the English monarch, the Virgin Queen, who feared having lovers would undermine her court and power, was absolutely bowled over, awestruck by this powerful woman who had had lovers beyond count and had personally killed anyone who dared cross her.
Yeah. So impressed was Elizabeth that she ordered Gráinne's son released, returned her lands to her, and gave her the title Chieftain of Mhaol.
But though she had retained her own independence, she was powerless to defend Ireland's Gaelic lords and customs.
Yeah. In 1602, the Irish rebellion was finally defeated. In 1607, the Flight of Earls took place when the last of the great Gaelic chiefs fled Ireland, never to return. Gráinne died just before this, in 1603.
So the Flight of the Earls is a whole other story we should certainly cover in the future.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. Gráinne passed, and yeah, very sad.
Yeah.
And Ireland has been trying to get the English out of Ireland ever since.
Yeah, there's lots of weird things, just even her death. Like, she died in 1603 and Queen Elizabeth died the same year. All these weird, spooky coincidences. And, I don't know, what do you think of the afterlife, Kerry?
I don't know that they ended up in the same place, to be fair. I don't know that they ended up meeting up in the afterlife because, you know, you go up or you go down, and I'll keep my opinions to myself on that one. But on that note, we have made it. We are 2 icicles at this point, recording outside.
Oh my God, there's been helicopters, crowds, seagulls attacking. It's been great.
It's been great. A good way to start the year with a bang.
Yeah, and start our series on pirates. We're doing another woman. We're doing more women pirates.
Absolutely. Stay tuned now for part 2 of Women in Piracy. This time it's personal.
This time it's personal. Okay. Oh my God. Alright, I will keep going because I want to tell your news.
Yes.
What have you been up to?
My news. So, my exciting news is I'm now producing a podcast series.
What's it called?
It's called Isht. Isht. For Ethereal Magazine here in Galway. So keep an eye on my social medias. I'll be promoting that very soon.
Yeah.
It's basically interviewing young creatives in the west of Ireland. Yeah, so it's a lot of fun. And yeah, that's my big news at the moment. My other news, I want to buy some hiking boots. That's my other plan. I think maybe later today I'll go try and find some hiking boots because I'm at the stage in my life where I want comfortable shoes.
It happens.
It does.
It happens.
For me, it's happened at 26, but it happens.
It does happen.
And what's your news, Rab?
Well, I'm 56 and I am still attempting to reach a place of maturity and responsibility, and I'm still hoping to get there. That's my plan.
Great.
It's not. I've had an adventurous couple of months. I've been hanging out with lots of people from various parts of the planet, and so now I'm kind of. I don't really. What's the news? I finished. I started writing some new short stories.
Great.
And I'm very pleased with them. So that's what I'm doing just now.
Very exciting.
That's kind of stuff. Oh God, of course. The one thing of
the shows.
The shows. Yeah. We have various shows coming up. First of all, we have the podcast.
Yes, when you're listening to this, the launch will have happened. But we are going to be launching season 2 of the podcast in the Galway City Library.
Yeah.
So I'm going to speak preemptively and say, it went so well, it was so great.
We had the crowd control was crazy.
Oh my God. Didn't expect all those famous people to show up, but we won't spoil any names.
Yeah.
We have that coming up, and then the Celtic Tales storytelling will be coming back in person very, very soon. Yeah,
originally I was going to start again in April, and then folk kept demanding more, so I was going to start in March, but now it's actually going to start. The very first one is the Thursday 22nd of February.
So
come along.
And I will say the demand is high, so
it is high,
book your tickets on Eventbrite, come early. We're looking forward to getting to see everyone in person again. It's been a long old winter.
It has. It's been long, and that's fine.
Alright,
okay.
We're going to go warm up. Thank you so much for listening, guys.
Thank you very much. Stay tuned and stay warm. And those pair in the wild Atlantic, please stop now. Take a breath.
Take a breath. Drink some water.
Yeah.
You know, have a nap.
Yeah.
Slán.
Slán.
The Celtic Tales Chronicles is written, hosted and produced by Kerry Graham and Rab Fulton. Edited by Rab Fulton.
Cover artwork by Kerry Graham. Music by Kevin MacLeod.